Hi there. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Intuition Your First Sense. This is Vicky, and I'm still the intuitive coach, development specialist when it comes to intuition, and business coach, and all those other things rolled into one. Basically, if you want to connect to your soul, I'm your gal, and then bring that work out into the world in whatever way is important to you. And on this episode, which is the last one of 2021, I wanted to express my gratitude to all of you listening and to sharing and your comments and your emails and your suggestions, because without you guys, I'm literally just sitting here talking to myself, which I do quite well. And I do enjoy my own company, but it's not as much fun as with all of you. And I'm really appreciative. This year, the podcast has really risen in ranks and people are resonating with it. And that's why I started it. I wanted it to be out there for anyone to access, no matter where they lived or what your interests were, and a little bit more, I don't know, like a grounded approach to this intuitive ability, to the guides, to angels, to spirit, and the balance that is necessary between our soul and our human self. They want to work together. So I figured I could act as a bit of a tour guide. And because of your interest, the podcast is now ranking. I'm recording this in October, just to be clear, but it's now ranking in the top 10% of all podcasts for education. And I'm grateful. I'm humbled. I'm a little blown away, to be truthful. I know how much fun it is for me. And I'm grateful to be able to do it in this world of technology and to connect with people all over the world. And I've met such amazing people through this podcast that while I truly believe our universe would have brought us together in some way, this has definitely amped it up and helped it to grow exponentially. And I'm so grateful. I really am. I love people. I really do. And even the tough ones, curmudgeons, tricky, not jerks. I am human after all. I do have my limits. I'm just so grateful to be able to do this. And ending the year 2021, I feel like it's been a massive year of growth, not only for myself, but for others. And it's taken us in directions of boundaries, I think. I feel like many people have realized what's important to them, or they're realizing and, trying to factor it out and figure out what really makes their heart sing. And I feel like there have been a lot of there has been a lot of growth in recognizing what people around us are helpful to our growth and for those that are not. And I'm seeing a lot of peace in people with that decision rather than the guilt that's been taught to us that we have to stay, if you've been friends with them since kindergarten, you have to stay friends, or if you've ever had a relationship with them, you need to keep them in your life, or if they're family, that they have to stay apart. And I'm seeing a lot of peace happen over this last year where people are recognizing that's just not necessary, and we can be kind about it. We do not have to be jerks about it. But when you're creating health for yourself, the people that are around you are of paramount importance. And if you aren't surrounded by those that are supportive of you and your dreams and your expectation of who you want to be, and you know what, your humanness, your 2 steps forward, 1 step back, all the other expressions, right? Because we expand and we contract and we give things a go and then we fall back a little bit. And I think that's important because I think it shores up who we are. So this last year feels like that's what it's been. So if you felt like you put so much effort in and you aren't where you thought you'd be, can you take a moment and look at where you are though? And can you look in retrospect to where you've been and give a little bit of credit there? Because oftentimes I find I have to point out to people what they've accomplished or what they've shifted in their belief about themselves or how they are in the world if they're in a kinder, gentler, and more secure place within themselves. And sometimes I feel like it's just hard for us to see. So if you could take some time at the end of this year to appreciate all the effort you've put in, and then, yes, look at what are some of the things that you'd like to change. We can do this every day, but of course, it's a bit more weighted, or it seems more important because it's the first of the year, but it's not. Like, you can pick any random Wednesday that you want and start this process. But go ahead and use the energy of the universe and of our time and our Gregorian calendar that's sending us into another year to set some intentions for this next year, because it's a good way to chart things too and to keep track of things, since our brain is used to a calendar system. May as well work with what we have. Stop fighting what's there for your best interest. So in that regard, moving forward into 2022, I always do an end of the year mini recap, and then what do I feel like the energy for the next year is about. And I've been doing this for probably 15 years in newsletter form before this podcast, although I do have a newsletter. You can go to vickybaird.com and you'll get the updates on what's going on, what courses are coming out, what speaking engagements, what podcasts I'll be on, all that fun stuff is there as well. This next year, 22, really feels important to me. And I don't want to put an emphasis that the others weren't important, but this one feels like it's holding a magic wristband or something like that, that lets you move to the front of the line. It feels like it has, it's just this magic is a good word for it, because it does feel like it has magic in it. It feels like it has a very fast manifestation energy to it. So if you've been lining up your energy and paying attention to what it is that you'd like to create in your life and taking the steps towards it. I mean, you can't just wave a magic wand. You have to actually get up off your butt and do stuff. But if you've been doing that, 22 feels like the year of physical manifestations. So the dreams, the aspirations, the plans, the networking, the connections to people, the connections to your soul and to yourself. It all feels available. And I feel like that has a lot to do with some of the pressure that we felt in the last few months of 21, because it's almost like we know there's a race day coming and that we better start working out and not just show up on that day hoping to do a good job. And although it's possible, I think we have a lot more in us than we give ourselves credit for. And you definitely do, because if you're listening to this, somewhere in there is a desire for that soul to be known to you on a more readily available basis. And this next year, because it feels like there's a lessening of the block between our physical communication and our soul communication, it will just be that much easier to connect. I mean, you will still need to do the time alone, the asking yourself the questions of, is there anything in there that I have not addressed? Do I have any habits that are not helping me? Am I avoiding? Am I deflecting? All of those questions are going to be important for the rest of your life. This next year feels like if you can dig deep and ask those questions and be willing to receive the responses. They're not necessarily answers. People often say to me, well, I just want to get the downloads of the answers. Well, they're not answers, because we have free will, we have agency over ourselves. That's the beauty of being human. And it's not an answer. There's no force out there that knows you better than you know yourself. And there's no force out there that's going to tell you what to do. And the sooner you realize that, the more you can feel empowered about your own decisions, about who you are, and about how you want to be in the world. There are helpers, absolutely. I do believe in God energy. I believe that there is a support to this whole system we have going. I just know that we have way more say over it, and we're often the ones that create the challenges for ourselves. So if you can look at this next year as, okay, if this is all available to me, I'm going to take a little bit of trust here, and I'm going to step forward and believe that this is, and then I'm going to take the steps to actually get there. So if you're starting a business, well, you need to do research, and you need to understand what it means to market, and you need to understand the overhead costs, and you need to understand whether you become a limited liability corporation, an S Corp, doing business as, or what the process is. You need to connect your team. You need to have an accountant, and all of this can feel overwhelming, but really it's about the belief in yourself that you can take step after step after step and end up in a place that matches what you've always felt within your soul and within yourself. So this next year of 22 has a supportive mechanism to it that when we show up for ourselves, I do feel like the universal forces will be there. They've always been there. This year just feels magic, and I think that is something to celebrate. And I feel like there's a desire from the majority of people to understand their own wiring and to connect in with what really matters of their heart. And this is the spirit heart as much as it is your physical chakra. Because the organ doesn't necessarily feel all of these things. It's the chakra center there, the energy center that happens to be near the heart. And if we take that opportunity, and if we just pause and recognize the beauty around us and be appreciative for what you already have, and really do the attitude of gratitude, it works. It really works. This next year is going to reveal a lot more of the underbelly of our systems, of our families, of just the dynamics of people. And I feel like that's one of the reasons I at least want to reach a little bit deeper into myself and higher within myself, so that I'm not influenced by that or saddened or, feel defeated by, where I feel like, no, my light and my bright light can absolutely influence the energy of the universe in a way that outshines some of this lower underbelly stuff. It's going to become more available to us, more readily available. So you will need to be discerning in where you're getting your information, because there are always going to be people who spin a story to their greatest interest and, to the marketing dollars and all of that. So make sure that you are paying attention to multiple sources. You're getting a lot of information in, and then you're actually using your brain to discern for yourself, rather than feel like somebody else is the authority. You have truth within you. You have that knowledge. And it takes courage to actually stand there and say, well, this is what I believe when faced, with somebody else's rhetoric or their beliefs. Because you know what? They're just as deserving of their beliefs and their education process. So this year feels like there is this peeling back of even more of the dysfunction that has been part of all of our countries, not just here in the United States, but all of the countries. And with this is because there's such amazing dynamic energies that are coming forth. Each time, each evolution of us, of humans, and I'm talking year to year, decade to decade, we are receiving more and more of these heart-centered souls coming into the world. And I'd like to think that we're also learning how to guide them a little bit better. But you know what? They've got some stubbornness to them that we are not going to dampen, to stamp out of them. There's a drive that seems to be there to, I think, save our humanity, to help us recognize that all of our fighting and all of our insecurities simply come from that, a feeling that we are unloved. And yes, I know there are sociopathic personalities, and I know that there are those that genuinely do want to hurt others and feel no compunction about doing it. I'm aware of that. But I also know that the majority of people who act out often are hurting in a way that they may not understand, and that doesn't justify behaviors. It's a way for us to kind of separate out our own value from what somebody else is doing. So this next year, you may see what looks like a divide within groups, within families, within spiritual networks, and you may find out some truths about the person you thought was so enlightened. And I want you to hear it with a little bit of separation. That is not it's not a judgment on who you are, especially if the information felt valid to you at the time. And there have been many that I've read or followed or considered a leader or mentor in spirituality and self-help that I could always feel like something was off. It was disingenuous about them. But I liked the information, and I felt like the information that they were presenting were valid. They just didn't absorb it into themselves, and they weren't able to embrace their own insecurities enough to be able to say, well, yeah, this is the stuff I do, and I'm not perfect, because no one is. Everybody is in their process. So this next year, when you see that there's, well, this person, embezzled from their own company, or turns out that they're awful to other people, or they treat their staff ridiculously harsh, you can still appreciate the message and the information that's, likely being led by other people too. And basically what's going to happen is this tendency of ours to put people on pedestals is diminishing, because as we step into our own individual, knowing that we each have a gift to offer, we don't necessarily have to have that person on the pedestal, and especially for the aesthetics of things. Now, we could still appreciate that somebody is an amazing gifted artist. I hope we do. I hope we do it more. And we can appreciate that, nice clothes and makeup and everything. It's really cool. It's fun. And yet know that it's the essence of a being that we really want to connect with and have that appreciation. So though there may be some difficulty from those who have always gotten their validation for their external selves, and we may need to have some patience and some kindness where that's concerned. I hope we can have that and understand that they are all just dynamically amazing souls in there. Oftentimes when I'm working with someone, admittedly, I am not the person who knows who is in entertainment or who is a star or considered a star or uh, a leader and all of that. I just don't follow that stuff. I find it kind of boring. I want to know the essence of the person. What was their favorite experience? Who was their love in their young life? What do they want to bring to this world? And if it's through their art, I can completely appreciate that and love it. And also recognize that this is a heartbeat in there. This is an individual. So often I am clueless to those who are coming to me for a session. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And yes, I know there's Google, but number one, that would be incredibly disingenuous. It would be rude, and I don't have the time to look people up to find out who they are before they come for a session. And I have often said, I've been teased about the fact that I don't hold celebrities and all of that to this high pedestal place. But it's because I know that they are beings. They are souls who brush their teeth. They poop. They have hurts. They have disappointments in their lives. And I just want, admittedly, I want everybody to live in my world. And I know that's not always possible, nor am I in charge of the world. But I have to say, I love this aspect that more and more people are going to arrive in the place where that pedestal thing is no longer necessary, because I think we're hurting people. If you just watch TikTok and somebody whose numbers go up overnight, and you can watch their light go down because they feel the pressure to meet the needs of all of these people that suddenly hit the plus button, and they lose themselves, and that's sad. So while I think it's important to look up to people and to really admire those, I feel like we are shifting from a place of empty admiration to whole admiration, where it's who the person is in the world and how they are on a consistent basis, and not simply the role that they played or the song they put out. I know that's part of their essence too, and I want to appreciate that. And yet I know that we can appreciate them even more, love them even more, and help, I don't know, them to feel like they're desired for their whole self and not simply for who they show up at work. Now, this can be said of a doctor. This can be said of a teacher. It can be said of a police officer. So rather than the labels or what we do, it's like who we are, it feels like, is starting to become more important. And admittedly, I'm loving that. Because that's why we're here. Each of us is here to connect our soul in with our human self and to feel that fun and that brilliance and that ability factor, and then share with others, share with them. And I love that the heartbeat of the universe is becoming louder and louder, and that more people are feeling the call to it. And yes, I do believe that going through the pandemic has created an opportunity for that. I had somebody the other day say to me, "I'm so sorry for the kids that have gone through this." And I said, I'm not. And that might sound heartless, but I'm not. I feel for the ones that didn't have equanimity. I feel for those, and I get frustrated about a system that can provide so much for one district and not for the other. So this isn't about semantics. I actually feel like a generation that is slightly inconvenienced in their lives and learns that it's not all about us, that your actions can impact others, I think is a good thing for our growth. And I feel like we benefit from stopping and considering and looking at our own lives. And I know that some of the awareness that came out of 21 was just that. And that's why so many people are leaving their jobs, because they're realizing they matter. And that's so important. So as you move into 22, what are the aspects of yourself that you would like to enhance? And it's okay to look at yourself and say, I want to be less judgmental. But when you do that, look at the other side of it. What are you really asking for there? You're asking to be more accepting. You're asking to see the trueness of someone. You're asking to separate yourself from someone else, because when we're judging, it's often an inside job that we're just projecting out to someone else. So go through, spend a little bit of time asking yourself, what is it that I would like to enhance within me? What do I want to bring about? And yes, write this stuff down. Do a vision board, journal it, create a document on your phone. You don't have to feel like you have to head off to the store and get a brand new book. If you want to, go ahead. That's so fun. I love office supplies. But you don't have to. You can open up a new document in Google Docs. You can put a note in your phone. You can have that anchoring is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to anchor it somewhere, so that in March, when you realize, oh, I wrote that down and I've not gotten to it, you can say, that's okay. I have it written down. Let me go visit it. Let me see what it says, so that you can start to make progress moving forward. In my coaching, I tell people when we first meet, I am not the coach that's going to say to you, you didn't get that done in 2 weeks. You said you were going to get that done. I'm not that coach. And if you need that kind of coach, I'm not that coach. You need to find someone else, because you know what? I already raised 3 kids and I don't want to do that. But I also know life happens, and I know that we need to leave space for expansion. And I know when you start looking at your stuff, that childhood stuff comes up and we have to work through that. So while the aspect of setting goals is something I definitely believe in, and I know that our brain loves, be kind to yourself if there's something you've started and not gotten back to. All of you artists know what I'm talking about. There is a pile of projects that got started that didn't get finished. And it's not all because of attention diversity. It is also because of where your energy was flowing at the time. But you do need to, if you want to see progress, I believe that we do have to anchor it somewhere. So whatever that is for you. So any of those methods will work. And then I'm sure there's others, right, that feel to you to be more supportive of your own stuff. So that might be an app. Maybe there's an app that you use that helps you to keep everything organized. And in wrapping up this episode, I really want to wish you the best of 22 and beyond, and encourage you to explore your own intuition by listening to your heart. It's not this external gift you get by being struck by lightning or having many lifetimes before of development, although that helps. So kind of work this lifetime so that the next one you also get to start at a higher vibration. Yeah, cool. But intuition can only be developed if you allow yourself to feel, if truly developed and dependable. And if you work your psychological aspects, it's just necessary. So in this next year, commit to yourself, that you will begin to become very comfortable with whatever emotion comes up, and you will give yourself the high fives, and you will pat yourself on the back, and you will do the happy dance, and you will tell people about your accomplishments without diminishing them, and you will feel that you are worthy because you breathe, not because you did anything, but because you are a heart, you are a soul, you are a beam of light that is here to experience this human experience. that's a little redundant, but to experience everything and to feel like it's a gift and that we get to do this rather than some assignment of, oh man, I have to be human again. So in this year of 22, 22 is a master number. So, let's master this thing and then expand and continue to enjoy whatever comes from 23, 4, 5, and all the rest. So it's got a lot of power to this year. And you've been preparing for this. The last few years have likely moved some stuff out of the way so that you can start to hear yourself a bit more. And that's exciting because you came in to know you and then impact others. So let's get on that, okay? I wish you all the best. I'm so grateful that you're here. And I will see you in 2022 in the next episode.